You're out on the ice. It's a perfect quiet morning. You take a step, the ice groans, and you freeze. Did you just scare off every fish within 100 yards? For generations, we've been told to walk like we're on eggshells, that the slightest vibration will send fish running for the hills. But is that actually true? Today, we're putting that old-school wisdom to the test. We're going to find out if fish can really feel your footsteps from 50 feet away, and the answer is going to change the way you move on the ice forever. In fact, what you're about to learn might be the very reason some of your trips have been a total bust. So let me ask you, are you a heavy walker or a silent creeper on the ice? Let me know down in the comments. This whole idea of being silent on the ice is practically gospel in the fishing community. You see guys setting up their gear like they're on a covert mission, shushing their buddies, and carefully placing every piece of equipment down. It comes from a place of respect for the fish and the environment, a belief passed down from our fathers and grandfathers. The logic seems simple. Fish are skittish, water transmits sound well, so any noise up top must be like a rock concert down below. For years, we've just accepted it without question because it makes intuitive sense. But intuition isn't science. And as we're about to find out, the way sound travels through a solid like ice and then into a liquid like water is a lot more complicated and a lot more interesting than most fishermen realize. First, let's talk about the sound itself. What are footsteps really? When you walk on the ice, you're creating low-frequency vibrations. Think of it like a deep bass note, not a high-pitched scream. It's a dull thud, a pressure wave that travels from your boot, through the ice, and down into the water column. Imagine dropping a bowling ball on a trampoline from an inch away. You see a slow, wide ripple. That's essentially what your footstep is doing to the ice. It's not a sharp, sudden crackle. It's a slow, rolling wave of energy. This distinction between low-frequency thuds and high-frequency clatter is the single most important piece of this puzzle, and we'll keep coming back to it, because fish, as it turns out, are very particular about the kinds of sounds they pay attention to. Now let's bring the fish into the picture. How do they even detect these sounds? They have two primary tools. The first one is the one we all know about, the inner ear. Just like us, fish have an inner ear that picks up on sound vibrations, but they have a secret weapon we don't. It's called the lateral line. You've seen it before. It's that faint line running down the side of a fish from its gills to its tail. Think of it as a long, highly sensitive antenna. It's a series of pores connected to nerve receptors that detect tiny changes in water pressure and vibration. It's how a fish feels its environment. It's how a pike knows a smaller fish is struggling nearby, even if it can't see it. This system is designed for close-range detection of movement in the water. So we have the sound source, your footstep, and the receiver, the fish's lateral line and inner ear. The next question is, how does that sound get from point A to point B? Sound travels differently through different materials. Through the air, it's one thing, but through a solid like ice, it travels much, much faster. Then it has to transfer that energy from the solid ice into the liquid water. A lot of that sound energy is actually reflected and dampened during this transition. It's not a perfect one-to-one transfer. Think about being in your house when a car with loud bass drives by. You don't hear the music clearly, you just feel the thump, thump, thump. That's a good analogy for what the fish experiences. It's not hearing your boot, it's feeling a muffled, low-frequency pressure pulse. Let's get more specific about the lateral line. This amazing organ is tuned to detect very specific things, mainly the movement of water. It helps fish school together, avoid predators, and find prey. It's incredibly sensitive to things happening in the water next to them. It picks up on the displacement of water from a swimming lure or a struggling minnow. However, it's less effective at picking up distant, vague pressure waves coming from a different medium, like the ice above. A footstep from 50 feet away creates a very broad, very weak pressure wave by the time it reaches the fish. To the lateral line, this probably feels less like a direct threat and more like a piece of background noise, like the water current shifting. Now for the inner ear. The fish's ear is excellent at detecting sound, but again it's all about frequency. Low-frequency sounds, like our footsteps, are something fish are constantly exposed to. The wind moving across the ice shifting and groaning on its own, even the movement of large water currents all create low-frequency rumbles. Fish are conditioned to this. It's the background music of their entire world. A few extra thumps from a fisherman walking around 50 feet away are unlikely to register as something new or dangerous. It just blends into the existing ambient noise. They don't have a reference for human footsteps being a threat. They have a reference for big, slow rumble, which is a normal part of their day. So, what kind of sounds do scare them? The answer is sharp, sudden, high-frequency noises. Think about dropping a metal tackle box on the ice. That creates a high-frequency clang, or the sound of your ice scoop scraping against the side of the hole, or the biggest culprit of all, the sound of an auger. These are sounds that are completely unnatural in their world. They are sudden, jarring, and cut through the low-frequency background noise like a fire alarm. These are the sounds that signal danger. A fish's brain is wired to react to these sharp, unnatural events because in nature, a sudden, loud noise often means a predator is attacking nearby. Your slow, rhythmic footsteps just don't fit that profile. Let's put this into a real-world scenario. Imagine you're in your ice shanty. You've been walking around, setting up your gear, getting comfortable. Down below, a big walleye is cruising the weed edge. It feels the faint, rhythmic thuds of your movement. To the fish, this is no different from the sound of the ice groaning as the sun warms it up. It's just part of the environment. The walleye continues its patrol, completely unbothered. It has felt these vibrations all morning from a dozen other fishermen scattered across the lake. It's just noise, nothing to worry about. The fish is focused on finding its next meal, not on the muffled footsteps happening way up on the surface. But now let's change the scenario. You're still in that shanty, and you accidentally drop your metal thermos on the ice. The result is a loud, high-pitched bang that travels through the ice and into the water. To that same walleye, this is completely different. It's a sound that doesn't belong. It's sharp, it's sudden, and it's unlike any natural sound. This is a trigger. The fish's survival instincts kick in. It doesn't know what the sound is, only that it's abnormal and potentially dangerous. Its immediate reaction is to either flee the area or become extremely cautious, refusing to bite anything. You didn't scare it by walking, you scared it by being clumsy with your gear. Scientists have actually studied this using hydrophones, which are basically underwater microphones. When they place a hydrophone under the ice and have someone walk around on the surface, the recording picks up a very low, muffled thump, thump, thump. It's a sound that is barely distinguishable from the natural creaks and groans of the ice itself. The sound pressure level is extremely low. It's not a loud, alarming noise by any stretch of the imagination. In the grand symphony of underwater sound, it's a background instrument, not a lead solo. This scientific evidence backs up the idea that our footsteps are just not that significant to the fish. When those same scientists drop something metallic on the ice, the hydrophone reading is completely different. The recording shows a massive, sharp spike in the high-frequency range. It's a jarring, loud, and unmistakable sound that cuts through all the background noise. If you were to compare the two sound waves on a graph, the footstep would be a small, rolling hill, while the dropped object would be a tall, sharp mountain peak. This visual difference perfectly illustrates what the fish is experiencing. One is a gentle nudge, the other is a slap in the face. This is the crucial distinction that most anglers miss when they worry about making noise. Let's also consider the distance. 50 feet is a long way. While sound travels well through ice and water, it also dissipates. The further the sound has to travel, the weaker it becomes. A footstep that might be a noticeable thump directly under your feet becomes an incredibly faint, almost imperceptible pulse by the time it travels 50 feet through the ice and then down through the water to a fish. It's like hearing a whisper from across a football field. You might know something is there, but it's not enough to get your attention or cause you to panic. The energy just isn't there to create a strong enough signal to be perceived as a threat. Think about other sounds on the ice. What about a snowmobile or an ATV? Those are much louder and create far more vibration than a person walking. Yet, we regularly see people catch fish just minutes after a snowmobile has driven right past their spot. Why? Because again, it's a relatively consistent low-frequency rumble. It's a sound fish may become accustomed to on busy lakes. It's a moving sound, not a sudden stationary threat. The fish might hunker down for a moment as it passes, but they often resume normal activity very quickly once the loud, moving source is gone. Your footsteps are 1,000 times quieter than that. Now for the biggest noisemaker of them all, the auger. The process of drilling a hole is acoustic chaos for fish. It combines a loud engine, a low-frequency rumble, and the high-frequency screech and crunch of the blades cutting through the ice. It's the loudest, most unnatural sound you will make all day. It absolutely alerts every fish in the area. However, fish often associate that sound with a potential feeding opportunity. They know that after the loud noise, food in the form of bait often appears. So while it definitely spooks them in the short term, it doesn't always make them flee. Your footsteps are not even in the same league of acoustic disturbance as an auger. So if the footsteps themselves aren't the primary problem, what could be? One often overlooked factor is your shadow. On a bright, sunny day with clear ice and little snow cover, your dark silhouette moving across the ice can be far more alarming to a fish in shallow water than the sound of your steps. Fish are extremely sensitive to changes in light from above, as this often signals an overhead predator like a bird. A large, dark shape suddenly blocking out the sun is a universal danger signal. In this case, it's not what the fish hears that spooks it, it's what it sees. This is especially true when fishing for panfish in just a few feet of water. Another key concept is habituation. Fish, like any animal, can get used to consistent, non-threatening sounds. On a popular lake with dozens of anglers out every weekend, the fish are constantly bombarded with the muffled thuds of people walking, sleds being dragged, and shanties being set up. They learn that these sounds are not associated with danger. It becomes part of their normal environment. The fish that freaked out over every little vibration simply wouldn't survive because they'd be too stressed to ever feed. The ones that remain have learned to ignore the constant, low-level background noise of human activity on the ice. Let's reframe the problem. Instead of asking, "Can fish feel my footstep?" we should be asking, what noises do I make that signal immediate danger to a fish? The answer is not the rhythmic thump of your boots. The answer is the oops moments. The dropped pliers that clatter on the ice, the loud slam of a shanty door, the aggressive scraping of a metal scoop to clear your hole. These are the sounds of carelessness. They are sharp, unnatural, and signal that something is wrong. Focusing on minimizing these sharp sounds will do far more for your success than trying to walk like a ghost. Consider the thickness of the ice. The thicker the ice, the more it will dampen the vibrations from your footsteps. Walking on 4 inches of fresh black ice will transfer more vibration than walking on 2 feet of ice with a layer of snow on top. The snow acts as a fantastic sound buffer, absorbing much of the energy from your steps before it even reaches the ice. So the conditions of the day play a huge role. On thick, snow-covered ice, the sound of your footsteps is almost completely irrelevant to the fish below. You could probably do jumping jacks and they wouldn't care much, acoustically speaking. What about the type of fish? Are some species more sensitive than others? Generally, yes. Fish that live in shallow, clear water, like some species of trout or panfish, tend to be more skittish and aware of what's happening above them. They rely more on sight and are more likely to be spooked by shadows. Fish that live in deeper or murkier water, like walleye or lake trout, are less concerned with overhead activity. They are more tuned to vibrations and pressure changes within the water column itself. But even for the most sensitive shallow water fish, a sharp, metallic clang is a far bigger threat signal than a dull footstep. Let's think about the most violent pressure change a fish experiences when you drill a hole. That sudden breach of the barrier between water and air creates a massive change in pressure and sound. It's like a small explosion right in their living room. Yet how many times have you dropped a line down a freshly drilled hole and gotten a bite within minutes? It happens all the time. This tells us that even after the most extreme disturbance you can create, fish either get over it quickly or their curiosity and hunger override their fear. If they can tolerate an auger, they can certainly tolerate your feet. So, here's the final verdict. Can a fish feel your footsteps on the ice from 50 feet away? The technical answer is yes, it probably can. The sensitive lateral line and inner ear can detect those faint, low-frequency pressure waves. But the much more important practical answer is, no, it doesn't care. Your footsteps blend into the natural background noise of the lake. They are not a threat signal. The real fishing lie isn't that you should be quiet. It's what you should be quiet about. Stop worrying about walking and start worrying about dropping things. That is the sound that truly kills a fishing spot. So, there you have it. The big twist isn't that fish are deaf, it's that they are selective listeners. For years, we've been tiptoeing around, paranoid about our footsteps, when the real culprit was the thermos we dropped or the pliers we tossed on the ice. The science is clear. Fish are conditioned to ignore the low-frequency rumbles of footsteps, but they are hardwired to react to sharp, sudden, high-frequency sounds. This completely changes the game. It means you can walk normally and confidently to your spot, but the second you start setting up your gear, that's when you need to switch into stealth mode. It's not about how you walk, it's about how you handle your equipment. That's the secret. Thank you so much for watching and for being willing to question the old rules with us. If this video changed your perspective, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our next myth-busting adventure. And for my final question, what is the one golden rule of fishing you've always suspected might be wrong? Let's debate it in the comments below.